Welcome to Brewsers, a podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I am your host, Rody John, and today we talk to Jacky Lee. We talk all about the Vancouver wrestling scene, Pop-Tarts, and hairstyle inspirations. Jacky Lee is a great up-and-coming wrestler in the Vancouver scene, and he is phenomenal, and he is so much fun to talk to. We'll jump right into that in a minute, but first, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out twice a week. You get even more information about our guest. You get fun facts, and you get to find out what's happening with your favorite podcast all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So without further ado, here is Jacky Lee. I would like to welcome to the show Jacky Lee. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat.
Thanks for coming on. So for those listening, I guess kind of paint us a word picture. Where are you at? What's going on around you?
So I'm a wrestler based out of Vancouver. Currently on a little bit of a break right now for the holidays, so I haven't had a match since late November. But I am going to be starting the this year off on the right foot. Starting this weekend, I got a couple shows, and after that, I'm going to be pretty busy for the next few weeks.
Very nice. Now, let's go all the way back in time. What is your earliest memory of pro wrestling?
My earliest memory. Think I was probably 9 years old when my friends were talking about watching Raw and stuff, and kind of lured me into watching it as well. And I kind of, I think my very first match I remember watching actually was it wasn't a crazy match or anything, but it was a tag match. I believe it was with Goldust and Booker T when they were tagging back in the day,
Oh, nice.
and they were facing off against Lance Storm and William Regal, which
Oh,
Lance Storm being a Canadian and Regal being one of my favorite wrestlers. It was uh, yeah, it's not as an interesting story as a WrestleMania story or the Rock story, but that was my first match, and I kind of been hooked ever since. And obviously, I found my favorite wrestlers, whether it be Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy, which better suit my style of wrestling. But that's kind of the long story short of how I kind of got into it.
wow. So, I mean, those are four characters indeed, and four wrestlers that could captivate anybody and put on an amazing match, even when they're not even trying. So, yeah, your first match was definitely a doozy. I like that. Now, so you obviously go in as a fan. When did you start realizing there was pro wrestling outside of WWF or WWE at the time? Because, yeah, if you had Booker T and Goldust.
Yeah, I was a bit after the WWF, so I started watching during the WWE.
Yeah.
But in terms of how I got into it, yeah, like I always grew up watching it, and it never even crossed my mind that that was something that I could actually train to do. It just seemed so kind of like surreal, fantastical, and not really something I really put much thought into. But yeah, after I graduated from university, I actually felt like I wanted to, actually look into it and give it a shot because I don't want to, be stuck in an office job and, be regretting never pursuing this career path. So I looked into some schools actually that are located in Vancouver, and I found the Lionsgate Dojo, and they are, some of the best trainers in the country, if not the continent. And I'm very lucky that they've taken me under their wing, trained me everything I know, and yeah, here I am living the life.
Now, going from being a fan to an actual worker in the business, what was trying to, how do I phrase this? I guess like what's the best time do you think that you switched from not just being a fan, but also looking at it from a worker's lens? Because obviously, us from the fan perspective, obviously views the business in one way. Some people obviously, the certain levels of markdom, whether it be smarts or casuals. But when you're on the other side of it now, and you're thinking about like the politics and the way that also to look at a match, like when do you think your brain kind of switched from that fan to worker?
Yeah, so obviously with the training, you kind of know how things go, and
Right.
you understand, the general formula of a match, and how everybody's ultimate goal is obviously to look after each other's safety. I hate to break kayfabe, but it's we're all in
It's
this
been
together, and we're
broken
all
for
keep.
quite a few times, quite a
Yeah,
while. I think that's right. Yeah.
yeah, I'm horrible at that stuff. But yeah, like we're all friends, we're all looking out for each other.
Yeah.
So I learned pretty fast to switch. Even like watching wrestling now, it's totally different than when I was watching as a fan, and
Right.
it's kind of like learning how the sausage is made, so to speak. There's things that I appreciate, like knowing the little nuances that make a great wrestler great just by watching
Mhm.
them work, and there's obviously the other stuff like oh, I see, I think they're doing a blade job here. Oh, I think they're calling something on the fly here, and all the little things is just very fun to see for the most part. And I still enjoy watching wrestling. I'm still as big of a fan as ever, but certainly changed my perception of the industry for sure.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah, seeing that side of it is just. I'm just been lucky enough to be a backstage interview person, and just seeing it from my point of view. I'm like being backstage, watching people like put matches together, and then later, putting the promos together as to how they want to do it. I love watching all of that. Like you said, the way the sausage is made, and it's as a fan, it's one of still the most beautiful things about pro wrestling is how much people are putting into it and creativity, and you see their brains working, and it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about it as well. And like we're all like I often get starstruck by some of the people I share a locker room,
Yeah.
but they're literally in the same boat as me. They're going over their matches, they're rehearsing stuff, and it's just pretty cool seeing all of us all on the same level backstage.
Now, when you were coming up, I mean, I guess talk to us for people who aren't as knowledgeable about not only the Canadian wrestling scene but the Vancouver scene. What does the Vancouver scene of Canada look like?
Yeah, so I'm still relatively new in the business as well. I joined the business back probably in 2016, 2017, so I don't have the best historical knowledge, but I can talk a little bit about,
Oh, yeah.
I guess, my time in the industry. And yeah, when I first started, there was, a handful of promotions. Now there's so many promotions in the Vancouver area, almost
Wow.
a show every single weekend, which is pretty crazy. Like a lot of wrestlers don't even need to really leave the city for bookings. They can stay in the city and work for three, four, five different promotions every weekend, and
Wow.
it's a pretty healthy scene right now. And even outside of British Columbia, I have been very lucky to get to wrestle in Alberta. I have lots of friends out there. Down south, whether it's in Washington or Oregon, as far as down as California as well. It's been lots of opportunities out there, and it's a very, very healthy scene right now.
Yeah, I saw that you work for Defy. Now, Defy seems to be one of these companies now that is one of the bigger when it comes to an indie promotion. Tell us about Defy for people who haven't heard of it, because to me, it's kind of like almost a PWG of the Pacific Northwest. Like that area is Defy territory, like almost the same way. We're kind of in a weird way splitting into territories again as to who's the biggest one is, and there's like these little off. There's like smaller local regional companies, and I love it. So for those again who haven't heard of Defy, kind of walk us through that. Tell us about that company.
Yeah, Defy is definitely the biggest promotion in the Pacific Northwest, and I think your analogy is great, just with the PWG comparison, just
Mhm.
because they're so good at spotlighting all of the amazing talent in the area, and in addition to that, also bringing in these big names as well, because a lot of people they'll hear about Defy and they'll look them up and they'll recognize a lot of the big names, but these big names aren't just wrestling other big names; they're also wrestling the local people that folks might not be quite familiar with, and it's a great way to spotlight all the talent here, whether it's wrestlers that are based in Washington or just so many wrestlers in Vancouver even are regulars on the Defy roster, and it's just amazing to see the opportunities that they're getting and the spotlight that they're getting.
Yeah, same. I love that so much, and I love the regional aspect that is pro wrestling right now, and in a smaller way if you're paying attention to the indie scene, because you know Nick Wayne came from Defy in that area, and I first ever heard about him with GCW, and then Obviously he was running, he was in Defy for so long, and then he's now moved up to AEW where he's just this incredible character. So I love watching like the regional areas get big like that, and it's because again you get more stars, and like you said, that if it's a healthy market, we get more pro wrestling, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, that's a good thing.
Definitely, and Nick Wayne is one name. Obviously, there's so many folks based out of Washington, whether it's the Darby Allens of the
Hmm.
world, the Swerves of the world, the Daniel Bryans of the world,
Yes.
as well as and there's like probably another 2 dozen wrestlers I can name right now that are itching and ready for their opportunity, and you're not going to be short on talent here in the Pacific Northwest. There's just a bunch of people just waiting for their shot to make it.
I love that. Now, when it comes to creating a character, when you are getting in the business, kind of who did you kind of take from whenever you were trying to build your character? And obviously, you're still evolving, all the time. I mean, just look at Chris Jericho, the way he's evolved throughout the years. Now, who did you kind of not cherry pick from, but who inspired you when it came to your character?
Yeah, so I guess when I first started, like I wasn't, again, this is probably not the best example, but like I was very focused on, the moves and stuff when I first started, and I wasn't really focused on who I was as a character. So from a move template and a wrestling style template, I drew a lot from, Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy I mentioned as well. Uh, Darby Allen, who's local, is someone I also admire. And from a character standpoint, that's something that I've just relatively recently started uh, developing a lot more. Now that I'm a lot more comfortable in the ring, I can do more character stuff. And it's kind of funny. Like I had a friend of mine actually ask me if I could combine 2 wrestlers to describe my gimmick, and the first 2 wrestlers that came to my mind were Darby Allin and Kylie Ray, which you would not
Oh,
anticipate being 2 wrestlers you would kind of mash together. But I kind of have like the happy-go-lucky, fun attitude of a Kylie Ray, but I'm also ridiculously reckless in my wrestling style, like a Darby Allin. And like you mentioned, I'm always growing. So if you ask me this question next year, that could change, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I love it. Now, where did you? Because when you come out, like you have like the cosplay sword, and you do the dragon sometimes, and then you always seem to, especially what you're doing with your hairstyles and the different etchings on the side. Like, where do you kind of what do you kind of view your character, your entrance? Because it seems like you're just trying to bring the energy up throughout the whole building.
Yeah, I guess from a presentation standpoint, and as like a pretty popular baby face here, like I do take pride in a lot of our entrance work. The lion dancing was a kind of an exclusive thing that I did for Lunar New Year, for Chinese New Year a
Ah,
couple years
gotcha.
ago. So that was a very big show. It was a very big night for us. We were finally getting a tag title shot for the first time in 3 or 4 years. So that was a big moment for us. I really wanted to make a big deal out of it. So I hired a company to do some line dancing for the audience, and I got like a big Gong Hei Fa Choi chant out of the audience, which is pretty great. And the cosplay. Something I do with Sharif Moro, my partner. We're big Kingdom Hearts fans,
Ah,
and I'm not sure if it's something you've noticed in your industry or in your scene or not, but I feel like there's a large overlap in between the video game industry and the wrestling industry. There's a lot of fans that love video games. There's a lot of
mhm.
wrestlers that love video games. And whenever we come out with those jackets and our keyblades, a lot of the fans recognize that that's from the video game Kingdom Hearts, and everybody goes crazy and everybody loves it, which is quite fun. Um, and you mentioned my hair. That's something that a lot of people actually don't notice. I actually do all my hair myself. I've been doing it for years, and
Oh,
every single month, I kind of do like a new drawing in my head. Lately, I've been doing a lot of Chinese characters, but historically, I've done a lot of different random designs, just whatever I'm in the mood in. And I've done like a bunch of like astronomy symbols, alchemy symbols, all sorts of random things, just to mix it up. Kind of how like Rey Mysterio would come out with a different outfit all the time. I kind of wanted to do
right.
something similar, where I kind of don't always have the same look all the time, and kind of gives the fans something new every time they see me.
That's really, I like that you're